On Ticker, this is Import Export with Lawrence Christophels.
Good morning everyone, welcome to Import Export here on Ticker TV. I'm your host Lawrence Christophels. We're going to join now straight to our guest from the Australian Border Force, Zoran Kostolanovski from CBFCA join us right now. Thanks very much for joining us, David, and thanks Zoran for joining us as well. David, I wanted to ask you first and foremost, we had an update that went out yesterday around the Modern Slavery Act and the changes to the deadlines. Is that something, I know that one of the things with the importers and exporters, especially in the SME space, they have really struggled to keep up to date. Most of them are still really confused or unaware about what their modern slavery reporting requirements are. So can I ask you just to shed a little bit of a light, one, about Australian Border Force and your role in the modern slavery reporting, and two, the latest development with the extension of dates, and obviously that's, I'm assuming, is because of the COVID-19 impact.
Thanks, that's correct. Yes, I lead the Modern Slavery and Human Trafficking branch, which is in Border Force, and our role is to implement Australia's Modern Slavery Act, and that includes providing advice and support to entities who are required to comply with the Act. Yeah. For viewers who are not familiar, the Act came into force on the 1st of January last year, and it requires large entities with over $100 million annual consolidated revenue to prepare an annual statement about their actions to assess and address modern slavery risks in their supply chains. Yep. And that also will include large exporters and importers that meet the revenue threshold. So there's a few things that the government has announced. Earlier this week, the government announced that there will be an extension to deadlines for entities that are required to submit their modern slavery statements this year. Extend the deadlines by 3 months. Right. So that means that for entities who are reporting on a foreign financial year basis, their reports will now be due at the end of this year. And for entities that are reporting on the Australian financial year basis, their statements will now be due to the government on the 31st of March next year.
So that statements are still the same ASIC reporting. There's nothing different they need to send to Border Force or Home Affairs?
So the statements that are required under the Modern Slavery Act are required to be submitted to Border Force. Mm-hmm. We are in the process of building an online registry which will house those modern slavery statements. That registry will come online very soon. And that will be a central repository for all modern slavery statements submitted under the Act, whether that's entities who meet the revenue threshold, who are required to report, or for entities that decide to undertake a voluntary statement as well. They will all be hosted in one central repository online. So there's no set template as such, but there are a series of mandatory criteria which require entities to describe their operations and their supply chains and describe the risks from a modern slavery perspective in their supply chain, and to outline the actions that they're taking both to address those risks in their supply chain. I should also mention too that we have released a guidance document that is available online, which is a really comprehensive guide to entities that sets out how to approach the development of their statement and the reporting. Mm-hmm. In addition to that, we've also recently released a fact sheet on COVID-19 to provide some further assistance to entities about the sorts of things that they can be doing as they're responding in the current pandemic environment to ensure that their actions are not indeed increasing modern slavery risks in their supply chain, and talk about some of the work that they've been doing to assess their modern slavery risks in the current environment.
Fantastic. David, I've got Zoran on the call with us because with the CBFCA, the Customs Brokers and Forwarding Council of Australia, they obviously work closely with Border Force on a whole range of issues. But with this one, with modern slavery, I'm going to ask Zoran yourself. You're a broker, what do you need to do about modern slavery? Is there anything that you're aware of, Zoran?
We support the Australian Border Force to educate the importers of what the requirements are. At this early stage, I don't think there is a requirement under the ICS to do a community protection questions for modern slavery. It appears to be more reporting directly by those importers rather than getting a declaration and answering questions as a licensed customs broker on modern slavery.
Yep, thanks, Zoran. David, I know that there's a lot of discussion within the industry and even with some other overseas countries where in many ways with the border control and the customs brokers, the customs agents in the past, it has other things like asbestos and so forth have evolved towards that. Do you see that as a possibility in a couple of years?
As I said, the Modern Slavery Act is a relatively new piece of legislation which came in to force at the beginning of last year, and our efforts really are ensuring that that businesses that are required to report or that are choosing to report under the Modern Slavery Act have as much support as we can provide to ensure that those statements are really a high quality.
Great, thanks. So it's a really important issue for the corporate social responsibility for businesses, but even for the younger generations who make those consumer choices and buying choices. They want to know that the companies that they're buying product from are doing the right things by people and the planet. So it's a really powerful thing, and we're really grateful that you came on the show, David, to share that. And we are looking forward to hopefully working with you on that webinar next week and getting a bit more detail around some of those 7 criteria, the reporting, and really trying to give that education out to the importers to make sure they're better skilled to do that.
Thanks, Lawrence. Thanks for having me on.
Fantastic, David. I look forward to speaking to you very soon. Zoran, I'll ask you to hang around if that's okay. I want to ask you a couple of other questions around some current issues and some latest developments around things like personal protection and PPE. What's happening there? I know there's a lot of stuff coming through on the media channels and on social media, and your press releases through CBFCA, Zoran.
The importing community, obviously, due to the demand for PPEs, they're interested to bring in more of these products. And the question that is posed to our members is, what are the import requirements? Are there any restrictions at the border? I'd like to make it clear that there are no restrictions at the border. For example, a lot of the PPEs that are sold purely for therapeutic goods used in the medical system for hospitals, they're all medical grade. They require to be registered with TGA in order to be imported. If you are to sell directly for medical use, they have to be a different grade and they have to be registered with the TGA. That is the difference. Also, the ABF is encouraging industry to report any suspicious counterfeit PPEs that come into the country.
I mean, a lot of people are looking at opportunities. We talked about on the show earlier that people who are out of work, they might be looking to import product. And I know from ATLC's perspective, there's a lot of inquiries coming through with people saying, "Oh, I want to start importing product. I've lost my job and I want to start doing an online business," for example. And there's a real danger in people who haven't done the right research or spoken to the right contacts or entities to find out, well, exactly what can I do, what should I be doing to avoid doing anything wrong and making sure they don't get caught up with additional charges or border restrictions. So what would you advise there? Is it to come to CBFCA? Do they speak to a broker? How would I find a broker?
The first point of contact would have, it is good to contact a licensed customs broker or freight forwarding business that employs licensed brokers, because we operate in that environment close to the regulators and can direct you to relevant authorities. In this case, you need to understand, if you are buying products and you're in procurement, I would say that first of all, you need to understand your relationship with your supplier. Make sure that those suppliers can produce the quality standards that are required, and also to understand the import restriction in Australia and deal with the TGA requirements. As I said, there's no border restriction on the goods, but you need to understand TGA use for medical, TGA use for recreational, and what are your labelling requirements. It is false and misleading to be able to capitalise on such a crisis to call non-COVID PPEs just so you can make extra sales, and that's really what the TGA is looking at. And that's the advice I will give importing people or purchasing people, procurement, because it is important to understand those regulations, otherwise you get in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, that's right. Thanks so much, Zoran. It's I really appreciate you're our regular go-to expert on all things border issues. I know that we've run out of time on today's segment, but I want to get you back on very soon to talk about all the training programs that you're running as well. We'll speak to you again very, very soon, mate.
No problem. Thank you, Lawrence. Thanks for having me on the show again.
Thanks, Zoran. Take care.